So finally, what does Tom DeLonge actually believe? His views are as sweeping as they are bizarre, and I've done my best to collect them and put them into some sort of coherent narrative based on things he said in interviews and what was written in his books. This list is probably not entirely accurate, as his views may have changed over time, and they certainly aren't comprehensive. But here we go. Here is a peek into the universe according to Tom DeLonge. Let's start at the beginning. God is real, the summation of all the laws of physics and the source of consciousness. God is love. And the universe is teeming with intelligent life, some primitive and some more advanced than we can comprehend. Some flesh and blood, some inorganic, some artificial, and many with capabilities beyond our understanding. There are several different groups and species of entities that are particularly interested in Earth and in humans. Are UFOs extraterrestrial, ultra-terrestrial, interdimensional, temporal? In a word, yes. His advisors call them the others. One or more of these groups somehow meddled with the primates native to this planet to create humans. We're engineered in some way, perhaps even hybrids. But of what? We don't know why there is so much interest in humans. Maybe there's something different about us. Maybe we were never supposed to be made. Maybe we are possessions and they are guarding us like livestock. The others have been here since the beginning of human civilization, which itself is much older than we had ever imagined. There have been many cycles of history, each ending in calamity at the hands of the others. What we consider to be human history is just the most recent cycle. Atlantis was real, a great civilization that thrived because it had a way of defending itself against the others. The others eventually destroyed them for their hubris. To me, the single most shocking thing that Tom DeLonge has said is that in the beginning stages of meeting his advisors, that it was his pitch that got him in the door, but it was something else that seemed to be the key to these people taking him seriously. And that was the idea that the entire UFO phenomenon is about multiple gods with a little g that fight amongst themselves and by design factionalize mankind into different religions so that we fight each other. To what end, we don't know. It might be some kind of proxy war. It might be for entertainment. Or, as DeLonge has often suggested, they might actually feed off of the energy of human suffering. During World War II, Melanesian islanders were exposed to modern technology for the first time. And despite the raging war, the vast amount of food, equipment, and medical supplies that were airdropped there significantly improved the lives of many of the islanders. As a result, some of the islanders began to worship the planes that would do these airdrops, thinking that they were sent from the gods. This phenomenon is called a cargo cult, and according to DeLonge, that's essentially what all of the major religions are: cargo cults. Virtually all of the ancient religions and traditions talk of the time when gods walked among us, or at least regularly made their presence felt. And that actually happened, but it wasn't gods walking among us, it was the others. Our government is aware of this. The Roswell crash was the first time that we got our hands on this advanced technology. This changed everything. Within 3 months of the Roswell crash, the Air Force was separated from the Army, the Department of Defense was created, and the CIA was created, all to investigate and potentially defend the country against this new threat. But this also allowed them to stovepipe information so that only a few people at the top had the full story. At nearly the same time, in both Russia and China, there were similar crashes. Tom says this was intentional. The others seemingly gave this technology to the 3 great world powers at the same time. Why? Tom has speculated that it could be to encourage more war, or it might just be to see which of us is strongest. The government hid what they knew from the public because they were also trying to hide what they knew from the others. They built bases and testing facilities deep underground and grimly, heroically got to work. The Cold War served as the perfect cover for decades of exorbitant spending and the stockpiling of advanced weaponry. The United States and the Soviet Union were engaged in an intense standoff, but the reason that the Cold War never got hot was because behind the scenes, they were working together against the others. To protect this secret, they launched a massive disinformation campaign starting with Project Blue Book. With Project Mockingbird, they infiltrated the media to turn the narrative to make the subject of UFOs taboo, something that only kooks and conspiracy nuts would ever take seriously. They started the conspiracy theory that the moon landing was fake to distract from the truth, that the Apollo astronauts encountered UFOs and intelligently built structures on the moon. The others have bases on the moon, in our oceans, and even underground. Abductions and cattle mutilations are real, and these phenomena are closely tied to stories of demons. These entities are one and the same. There is at least one group of the others that hates humans, that would destroy us if they could. This may be because we have a soul, and therefore a direct link to the loving, eternal source that is God. Perhaps these beings don't have that. Perhaps advanced forms of AI don't have a soul. Or maybe it's more than just jealousy. There is something about the UFO phenomenon that is deeply tied to consciousness. Perhaps humans are much more powerful than we ever imagined. Perhaps we've forgotten who we are. And maybe there are beings who would do anything to prevent us from remembering. DeLonge says an advisor told him that there's a black pyramid underground in Alaska. They discovered it when anomalous measurements showed up during an earthquake. It's twice the size of the Pyramid of Giza, and they've been studying it for years. We finally figured out what it is, his advisor told him. It's suppressing human consciousness. I could go on, but I think you get the idea. It's a lot. Which is why it's frankly kind of distressing that so much of what Tom DeLonge has said has checked out, and that so many of his advisors not only have been proven beyond a shadow of a doubt to be his advisors, but are the very people within our government who would know whatever secrets they may be hiding about the UFO phenomenon. I'm not saying that everything that Tom DeLonge is saying must be true, but at least some of it almost has to be. And any one of those things that I just told you would change everything. Taken as a whole, it makes me wonder if anything that I once believed about the nature of my reality is true. And that's the real takeaway here for me, that when it comes to the true nature of the UFO phenomenon, literally everything is on the table. And it's clear that, whatever the phenomenon is, the truth is sure to be stranger than fiction, and will undoubtedly challenge our ideas about who we are and what place we hold in the cosmos.